very good at just bunkering down and basically neglecting most of my needs for the sake of productivity.
Right.
You know, the ultimate delayed gratification. Right. You basically don't get to the gratification.
Right.
You're just perpetually kicking the can down the road.
The delay is forever.
Which is, you know, it's a very extreme way of thinking, but honestly, if you're poor and an immigrant growing up, it's a pretty good survival tactic. And so I can see where the adaptation came from my parents, but eventually I kind of, you know, they worked really hard to get me out of that. Maybe a year or two ago, I kind of realized, oh, like maybe this is not the way perpetually, because then when do I get to be happy? Never.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, it would be nice if I could be happy, essentially.
Yeah.
But it was still kind of a struggle because it was like such a muscle memory thing for me. I have always struggled with giving myself permission to have fun and just spend time enjoying life, especially when it came to letting myself travel.
Today we talk about Kevin's next step in his self-love journey and first time solo traveling in Asia, just for funsies.
Let's get into it. It's been a long time, almost a year, I think, since we've last posted. And a lot of things have happened since then. Mm-hmm. One of the most life-changing for me was traveling to Asia for the first time, which might be a little shocking because I'm Asian. But I have literally never been to the continent of Asia before, which was kind of a very wild experience. Mm-hmm. And something I wanted to get off my bucket list, so to speak, before I turned 30. So I got it in like right before. It's like literally like 3 months before my birthday. We got it done. But yeah, I think it was a pretty big moment for me for a variety of reasons. I think fundamentally growing up, we just like, the first question I always get is how? Like, did you never just travel with your parents? The answer is no. We were basically a road trips only type family. I think part of it was like means, like we just didn't have a lot of spare cash to like fly around and go places. But also like my parents are very anxious people. And at some point they got very anxious about being on airplanes. I think they just watched too much news and they're like, oh, plane crash. Oh no. So some combination of that meant that we never really traveled much growing up. And I think I didn't really appreciate that until I was a little older because my parents they actively would try to not frame things as, oh, we're poor, right. So we can't do these things. But I think eventually I picked up on it. But I guess the cool part is I did grow up in a suburb that was very Chinese immigrant pilled. It's like a community of like, I don't know, it must be like at least 80% Chinese people. So I grew up speaking the language, being surrounded by a lot of first generation immigrants who are also learning the language. So it wouldn't be uncommon for me to speak like Chinese, like Cantonese, like at lunch with these people, and they would go back to Asia every summer. Right. And so I always had indirect contact because they would come back from the summer that they would spend like 2 months in Hong Kong, and they would talk about like pop culture and like the media that's going on over there, like fashion trends and just the way that, you know, they hung out. The hangout options were always like karaoke and mahjong and badminton. So it was like I was surrounded by the culture even though I wasn't really there. So that's why it felt kind of like a homecoming when I eventually did go, even though I'd never personally gone before. I actually on paper have any ties whatsoever. Like I was born and raised in Canada and had never been.
So like, but before we get into like the actual experience of travel, there's already things in there that are really interesting to me. So one of the things that comes to mind for me is it sounds like even in that process of growing up, like you had like a lot of friends around you that would travel pretty frequently. They go back to Asia. And then certainly like our friend group travels a lot. And it's not just that they travel a lot. It comes up a lot in conversation.
Yes.
So I was wondering, like, before you actually went on this travel stint, how did it feel to be constantly surrounded by people talking about travel and like honestly kind of glorifying travel?
Yeah, it's true. Travel is it's very sexy in I guess our culture. I think it was always like I never felt envious in a way because in the back of my mind I knew I could always like that. I think I knew in the back of my mind I would pull the trigger at some point So it was never like envy. It was just kind of like, oh, like that's cool. It's kind of, the feeling is I wish I could relate more.
Right.
Or I wish I had things to contribute to this conversation. It's whenever travel used to come up, it's inevitably me just soaking it up, like kind of taking mental notes for my hypothetical future trip. So they were interesting to me, but just from a factual learning perspective,
right.
Like, oh, these are the things that are cool. Like, oh, transit is next level in Asia. Oh, the food's really good in Asia. Oh, like, don't go to Hong Kong in the summer because it's like a sauna. Right. You know, like these things I just had kind of built up as notes. But yeah, nothing too crazy there.
Gotcha. So it sounds like there wasn't like any insecurity that came up.
Not really. Yeah. For some reason, I've always been confident that like I'll eventually do this. I'm just, you know, busy or preoccupied.
Yeah.
Which actually is another really, it's a good segue actually to another thing as to why I put it off for so long. Because, you know, I think for me growing up until I finished college, yeah, I think like just money and time were really short because growing up, yeah, like money was definitely short. And then once high school kicked in, I was kind of like, I was very active in like volunteering and doing all these things. So all my summers got sucked up into like, you know, either working or like, I don't know, doing summer programs and such like that. So time became short. But then like once I graduated, I started making money. And so I had a little bit of disposable income. And I also had like my time back in that sense because I was only doing a job at the time. But I think the thing that stopped me at that point was that I was not used to letting myself have fun.
Right.
And I think that's something that I've struggled with most of my life just because of how I was brought up. Like parents are first generation immigrants, like their peak virtue and value in life is the ability to work hard.
Right.
And so that was really drilled into me growing up. Like I'm very good at just bunkering down and basically neglecting most of my needs for the sake of productivity.
Right.
You know, the ultimate delayed gratification where you basically don't get to the gratification.
right.
You're just perpetually kicking the can down the road.
The delay is forever.
Yeah, which is, you know, it's a very extreme way of thinking, but honestly, as like, if you're poor and an immigrant growing up, it's a pretty good survival tactic. And so I can see where the adaptation came from my parents. But eventually I kind of, you know, they worked really hard to get me out of that. So eventually, like maybe a year or two ago, I kind of realized, oh, like maybe this is not the way perpetually. Right. Because then when do I get to be happy? Never.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, it would be nice if I could be happy, essentially.
Yeah.
But it was still kind of a struggle because it was like such a muscle memory thing for me. And we talked a bit about in the last season about my journey with like, you know, finding self-love and like, you know, stepping away from hating myself. This is very related to that, right? Like getting to grips, like one of the things I was able to explore after I realized that I was worth loving is that maybe it's okay if I enjoy myself in life.
Right.
Maybe. So that hurdle I think was in my way for a long time. Just like it didn't feel like worth it, like from a time and emotional perspective, but also from a money perspective to just like, because travel takes like time and money and resources. And it just never felt like that was worth prioritizing, like my own enjoyment of it. And so, yeah, all of these things kind of like clicked into place where I like realized like kind of where the old blockage was, realized where the present term blockage was. And then the last thing that pushed me over the edge is I got let go from my startup job around the end of last year. And I just, you know, there was a fork in the road where I was like, do I just go dive headlong into finding a new job?
Yeah.
You know, I'd been working for like 5 or 6 years at this point, and it's like, yeah, okay, I could keep doing that. Or is this the perfect calling for me to take a break? And finally, you know, looking back on all these clicks that happened, it's like, is this the last click and then the lock unlocks? You know, where I like let myself now take this time to just go travel. And yeah, that's what I ended up doing. It was,
I remember you calling me. Like I was walking around in like some park in New York, and we were just like kind of working through this whole like emotional journey for you because the end of that job was like really intense. I think that during that conversation, you were like talking about what you wanted to do next. I'd be like, what if you go travel for a while?
Yeah, exactly. I think, we talked about it for a while. It wasn't really an immediate, let's just full send it. Like, it started off with just, I had a notes thing. I was like, what if it wasn't the title, but the sentiment of it was, what if I traveled for a month or two? Okay. Where would I go? List out some countries, and then I forgot about it for like 2 weeks, and then I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. And like the existentialism gets to you a lot once you're unemployed. Yep. So you're like, oh yeah, remember that plan to travel? Yeah, it sounds pretty good. And I just kept fleshing it out, like bit by bit. I'd talk to people, oh, like these countries are pretty good. I'm going to Asia. You know, the flight from North America to Asia is very long. Might as well stay and make the most of it there and see more than one place. And then slowly the list of countries came. I'm like, okay, if I go in November, like it's gonna be getting colder rapidly. So maybe I should go from north to south so I can essentially run away from the cold. And then, yeah, it just kind of coalesced. And eventually there was this plan. And then there was a moment where I'm like, okay, I guess the plan is now kind of there. Do I do it? And then I sat on that for maybe like two weeks. And then I was like, I don't think I have a reason not to.
Yeah.
I also just don't know when I would be able to do it. Like at this point, the list was like 6 countries. I'm like, there's no world where I get to go to Japan, Korea, like China, Taiwan, Singapore. Like there's no way that trip happens while I'm employed.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, I pulled the trigger.
Yeah, it's always like, it's always really clarifying being at moments in life where you're like, okay, well, I had this vague sense there's a thing in the future I want to do. And if I really think about how I expect my life to navigate, like this is the time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird, like letting it hit you.
Yeah.
You kind of play around with it and you're like, oh yeah, this is going to happen sometime. And then eventually you're like, wait, why not now? Wait, maybe it should be now.
Yeah.
Wait, now? And then you just do it and you're like, okay. Yeah. I think there's also something there with like, I've been talking to some of my friends who are like in their upper 20s and are like approaching 30.
Yeah.
And they're also all starting to have this realization of if I don't make, like if not now, when?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, because you spend most of your life, like when you're in college and school and stuff, it's almost all delayed gratification in some way, right?
Yeah.
Like you're mostly focusing on your studies and internships and building yourself up. And you're like, okay, one day, like similar flavors to what I've been talking about. Like one day I'll do this. One day I'll do these things on my bucket list. And then one day you wake up and you're like, if I don't do them, it's not going to get done.
Right.
And like, so maybe I should just go do them for a lot of things. And so, yeah, it's interesting how they kind of fall into place. I mean, this is a bigger arc of one of my learnings from travel, which is just like a lot of the times, like the most fulfilled that I got while I was traveling wasn't like I ate a lot of really good food and I saw a lot of really cool things and learned a lot of really cool culture, but it actually wasn't really about each individual thing in so much it was I woke up every day, I had a plan for the day, and then I executed the plan. Yeah. It was just the feeling of like I like wanted to go to this shrine and this park and eat at this restaurant, and it was not about like, oh, this is the coolest shrine, this is the coolest park, this is the best restaurant.
Right.
It's just that I had aimed for something, and then I shot and I got it. I executed the task and I completed it. And I really think that's actually it's really put in your face when you travel, but I think that's life in general, which is kind of related to this. Like, you make a plan to do a thing, you do the thing, and you're like, oh yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. Before we like dive more into like the actual experience of like, the learnings on the trip, another thing that I want to hear a little bit more about is what it felt like arriving at the airport on the departure. Because like whenever I've had these moments where it's like really clear to me, this is a transition, there's always like a very specific emotional tone to it. It's almost like dreamlike. It almost like feels, I don't know, there's a specific moment for me when I'm on the plane and I feel that initial kick of acceleration. And then I can just feel myself like departing a part of my life, especially when I know it's going to be a long trip.
Right.
So I want to hear more about that experience.
Yeah, I think for me it's a little more delayed, which is kind of a trend that I've seen throughout my life. Whenever I transition, the way I imagine it is like you're a small child, you're at a swimming pool, and you've for some reason have the idea to go try out the diving board for the first time, and you're kind of just like clinging to the edge, and then you like inch a little closer, inch a little closer, inch a little closer. The other kids are going. The other kids are going. They're in. It's totally fine. You're inching forward, and then eventually you jump. That's how it kind of feels for me. Like I kind of cling to the old thing for a little bit, and so there's always a little bit of a delay. This is the same thing from high school. I think like it took me like a week or so to like really feel it roughly. And it was the same for this, where like I was very tired when I got up for my 4 a.m. flight from SF to Japan. And yeah, it was dreamlike. It didn't hit me when I was on the plane. It honestly didn't even hit, like I had this moment of elation when I got out of the airport and made it through customs, which is a little stressful. New language, new forms. You're like, is it going to be okay? You get your visa, you walk out. And then there's this like extremely anime weeby welcome to Japan right at the exit. And then I walked out and I was like, oh shit, I'm in Japan. And it was like 0.5 seconds of elation followed by a little bit of dread. Like, oh, I'm in a foreign country. Wow. Okay. It's going to, I like had like a breathing moment and put some stuff down, sat down for like a minute. And I'm like, okay, I need to figure out like currency. I need to figure out how to use the train, how to get into the city, find my hostel, all this stuff. And so, yeah, I think it was a bit of a struggle at first.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of a delay. It hit me around day 3 and it hit me as like a minor panic attack. I think there was a moment where I was in my hostel. It was like 11 a.m. I'd like just woken up, and then I kind of was chilling there in my little hostel shoebox, and I was like, "Whoa, what am I doing? Like here?"
Yeah. Because
to give you also more context, one of the things I wanted to practice going on this trip was being more decisive. And being okay with like kind of working to improve, I guess, my perfectionism or become less of a perfectionist. And so one of my tenets going into this trip was I wasn't going to plan anything more than a week out.
Whoa. Okay.
Like pretty much ever for the entire trip. So yeah, I guess in a way I also deep-ended this.
Yeah. Because
it's like everything is new. Even the way that you conduct yourself and make decisions is new.
Yeah.
So yeah, I describe it as what am I doing cubed? Because I was like, I literally don't know what I'm doing a week out of this. I booked this hostel for a week. I have no idea what city I'm going to next in Japan. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I don't know where I'm staying, all these things. And then also like, what am I doing in like Japan specifically? There's like no ultimate end goal, which is something I'm very much used to having as like a comfort. Like I'm working towards a goal. There's a path, there's structure. It's very regimented. Yeah. This ties in to the perfectionism thing and being very hyper intentional. And so I was left without intention. I was intentionally without intention. And that was kind of freaky. And then there was also what am I doing in life?
Yeah.
What's next? I have no idea. I'm supposed to be having fun. Am I having fun in this moment? No, not really. So it just kind of like, that was and then I started having a minor panic attack. I think like, it wasn't too serious, but I definitely like felt myself, I was like hyperventilating a little bit in the moment. But then thankfully all of the work that I've been doing kicked in and I was like, actually, we're here to learn to trust yourself in this moment. Like in terms of the future, what am I doing? I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
In terms of why am I in Japan? Because Japan is awesome and you chose it. And so trust that decision. You didn't make a, in a micro level, there's no plan. But in macro, there is a plan.
Right.
Remember that? And then also like trusting that I'll like figure out being okay in this foreign country.
Yeah.
So yeah, that actually it worked. Like the panic attack, quote unquote, lasted for maybe like 3 minutes. And I was able to kind of calm down after that. And I think that's when it started hitting me. That like, oh, like once I calmed down, I was like, okay, this is new. Everything is new.
Yeah.
All right. And then I remember that was also, it was also 11 a.m. and I was hungry. It's like lunchtime.
Yeah.
But one of the things is like, people don't really speak English in Japan.
Right.
So obtaining food is also a challenge.
Right.
because you have to interact with people that don't speak the language that you do. So that was the first time where, you know, I had eaten obviously prior in the 3 days prior, but and it was honestly a little terrifying to go in like, it's like how they order things, and you don't want to, like, you know, what are the cultural norms? Like, I don't really want to mess anything up. But after that little panic attack moment, I was like, all right, let's go. And then that was the first time I attempted to speak Japanese. And then that was also when I discovered that I can kind of articulate like very like kindergarten thoughts in Japanese.
This is like purely from anime, right?
Yes. Yeah. 15 years of listening to a language and reading subtitles has I just have like keywords ingrained into my memory. And apparently my accent is very good because I've been listening to it for a very long time. Yeah. And so miraculously, I was like, you know, the person at the door says some things and I can pick out like every like fifth word. And then with the context of we're in a restaurant, I'm like, okay, they're probably asking like, you know, how many people? And like, you know, this is going to be the wait. And, you know, sometimes they ask you to order in advance and like you piece it together. And then through that, sometimes they had English menus. I eventually swallowed the embarrassment of whipping out my phone and Google Translate camera. Yeah. It feels so awkward. Yeah. I just remember being so embarrassed about it for honestly most of the trip. It just went from being like a 10 out of 10 embarrassment to like a 5 out of 10 embarrassment. And I just kind of got better at sucking it up. But yeah, between all those things coming together, you know, figuring out ATMs, because Japan is very cash based still. It all really started coming together. And that was the acceleration, I would say. To like, oh, this is very different, but here we go. It's like being on a roller coaster. Yeah. Like you get to the top and you're like, oh, it's going. There's no stopping now. Like we're past the critical point. Like it's going. Okay, I guess we're going now. And you accept it, and then you're like, there you go. Yeah.
So like over the course of this, like how did you like your relationship to perfectionism start to evolve? You mentioned that was like one of the things you're like, all right, I'm trying to not be in like grind set. I'm not trying to not be like, all right, this is the goal. I'm trying to not be like, I will do the best of all these things. You're trying to show up and just let it play out.
Yeah, pretty much. Like this is the benefit, I guess, of being the later one of our friends. Like to travel is that I have a lot of friends that are very travel experienced. And so one of the biggest tips I got from one of our friends was don't try to min-max travel. Yeah. Like that's the easiest way to like torpedo your experience is to constantly be stressing about, am I making the best use of my time right now? Right. As measured by, am I doing the most fun thing or the most interesting thing or the coolest novel experience? Or is this the best food? Like you need to relinquish all of that in order to make room for enjoying the thing that you're doing. Yeah. You can't be like eating the sushi and then like be questioning. Like you're either enjoying it or you're thinking like, could I be having better sushi? Right. You know, and the latter thought just really doesn't serve you because probably you already picked the best of the available options. So yeah, I think it was a big exercise in that, which actually came pretty easily, I think, to me. Yeah. But yeah, I think the broader thing was not, when I was like in the moment, it was fine, but it's the challenging part was in those brief stints of, okay, it's the end of the day. You're back at home now. You, in theory, could start planning more. Right. And you could start doing some research. And the key is you do want to do a little bit of that. Right. But you don't want to do too much. Right. Because my natural systematic, brain is like, let's organize some options and like, really try and like stack rank, pick the best thing. And I think not doing that was the active effort because I
right. And it's especially because like you have all this professional experience of like road mapping things out and then like trying to figure out how to like run the optimal path and to figure out. Whereas like I think applying that mindset to travel, like to the experience of trying to engage in a new culture, to like really experience a city, and like not just through the lens of a preset itinerary. Definitely, it seems like that kind of like aggressive PM mindset would be counterproductive.
Yeah. Also, honestly, like all these lessons I've been talking about actually, ironically, can be applied back to the professional setting, which I actually think it makes you better because, I don't know, decision making. It turns out decision making is decision making, no matter what arena you're in. Yeah. And I think the thing that I really just focused on was like the thing I would always ask myself is, okay, I want to go to this park. Does this park seem like it will be a good idea? Do I think that I'll enjoy it?
Yeah.
And if the answer was yes, then I did it, which seems kind of obvious. But within that, you kind of have to trust your sense of that.
Yep.
You know, that like, it's okay if you end up trying a thing and you actually end up not enjoying it. That needs to be okay.
Yeah.
And you need to trust your sense of like what you think will be fun, which is shockingly, maybe honestly, it sounds kind of dumb, but with the context of I've never let myself have fun before in my life, like I'm basically level 1 at having fun. You know, like if you've never done it before, it's actually shockingly hard to know. Like,
yeah.
I don't have that many data points on what I like doing.
Yeah.
You know, and so I've had the experience of going on hikes and really enjoying like being in nature. Oh, also, I forgot to mention that this entire trip was a solo trip. I've also never solo traveled before in my life. That was another deep endy thing.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I'd experienced like I like sometimes going on walks. And in season 2, we talked about learning to hang out. Actually, no, season 1, I talked about like learning to enjoy hanging out with myself. And so that combination with like I've done hikes before, I like nature. That's what clued me into, okay, I'll like hanging out at this park. Yeah. This nice park in Tokyo for a few hours. I think that's probably going to be fine, actually, and be a really good Zen experience. Like at minimum, I chill with myself, hang out with my thoughts, maybe, write some stuff down and do some pseudo journaling, take in the nature. Yeah, seems good. Like then that's how the plans come together.
I think like one of the things that I have a hard time with when I'm in this kind of mode of wandery travel, when I think about the things I'm going to do, obviously the most important thing should be like, do I think I'm going to enjoy this? Is it going to be an interesting experience? But there's always this voice in the back of my head that is trying to answer the question of like, okay, later when people ask you, how was the trip? Like, what is the story I'm going to tell around that? And I noticed that I have this like natural reaction there of like, what I'm trying to do is like shame avoidance. I'm trying to basically do this thing where when someone says like, hey, like, how was your trip to Japan? I don't just want to be like, yeah, it was good. I spent some time in some parks.
Because then it's almost like you're admitting that you like wasted your time a little
bit. Exactly. But like and I think like a small amount of that is good as like a push to be like, go try some new interesting things. Interesting. But I think another version of it really is constraining in that like some part of me starts trying to optimize for like what would be a good story, even if it's like not the thing that I most earnestly just like want for myself to experience. It's like kind of in the same vein as doing something for the experience versus doing it for the IG, except even without the social media pressure, just the like slight pressure of friends or like coworkers, peers, whatever, asking about the thing afterwards. I feel like a bit of embarrassment if my answer is like, honestly, I spend most of the time there just like walking around and reading and not having a compelling story to tell around that. So like, did you end up feeling anything like that? Or like, what were the things that you found got in the way of you choosing like, this is what I want to do today?
Yeah, I think that didn't really come up for me, which is interesting. And I think it might have something to do with the fact that it was my first time. Because one of the things I've been learning about, it's interesting you mentioned shame specifically. Because one thing I've been learning about shame is that it's like, shame is the emotion that arises when there's a delta between like your ideal and where you experience that you are. So it's kind of like a gap. And it's predicated on an expectation. And I think because I have no reference point, I can't really, like no one expects me to be good at travel, right? Basically. And so that wasn't really a stressor for me. I think for me, the hardest part was just like, I felt this, it's like being on a balance beam. Yeah. I kind of like, or maybe a tightrope would be better because I'm like holding one of those, those bars that help you keep your balance. Right. And I would constantly just get pulled out of balance. And it sounds like these thoughts of like, similar to what you're describing, right? Like my thoughts would just be like, yeah, it's kind of like, we talked about the, what are you doing? We talked about, I also had moments where I'm like, especially on moments where, because I was traveling for a long time, I had to take breaks to not burn out. Yeah. And when you're taking a break, you're like, wait a minute. I'm like, I spent a lot of money flying here. Yeah. Like, you know, like that's also what am I doing? Yeah. Of like, I should probably not be chilling. And so like, that's another example of a voice that would try to pull me out. But then I had to correct and be like, actually, this is a several month-long trip. You cannot sprint every day. Right. You will burn out and get tired, and once you hit burnout, it's just not fun because you don't have energy to have fun anymore. So accepting that part of myself and, you know, you're human, the humility, you know, that was what pulled me back to center. But then, you know, every now and then that's another thing that would pull me out. Some of it is also just like fear of the unknown. Mm-hmm. And not like, just being in a different country, different context, especially like for me when I was in Korea, that was the first country where I had nothing, you know, because in Japan I can kind of hear and understand some things. I can kind of say some things. Like a lot of Japanese characters are also Chinese characters, which I can kind of read. Right. So I was kind of ish there, but in Korea I got nothing. I didn't watch enough K-dramas growing up. So yeah, I can't really read anything. They look, you know, just like gibberish. Yep. Most Koreans don't. I've learned that from Korean friends, and actually the like average English literacy rate is actually quite high. They're just all very shy. Like they don't want to speak it, apparently. Which in a few settings where I hung out with my Korean friends or Korean American friends, and they had local Korean friends, like I was able to communicate with the local Korean people. Yeah. They had enough English in them that we could kind of talk, but like you go to any restaurant or any, like they're not speaking English to you. So that I had to grapple with. And there was like a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of fear there around like, oh, like I don't really know what's going to happen, what to expect if I get in trouble. I don't really know how to get out of that. If I do something on accident and like piss them off, like, you know, because of the cultural gap, you know, that was a little bit of a way to figure that out. But otherwise, I think those are the two main things that would pull me out. Just like, you know, it's new, it's equal parts exciting as it is scary. Yeah, but what you were saying actually is also very interesting. Like going back to the shame thing, like, do you feel like you expect yourself to be a better traveler or that other people expect, you know, like?
I think so. I mean, like I have been traveling on and off for like many, many, many years. Mm-hmm. I think some of this is like probably residual from when I was like a much pickier eater, especially when I was like fully vegetarian, because I just like always felt a little weird, just like, oh, like you like went to Japan and like didn't eat any of the Japanese food. So that's like one specific example. Right. But I think even aside from that, like honestly, a lot of memories I have from trips that are really meaningful to me are just like these kind of small moments that are not about like, oh man, like I went to go see this thing and it was crazy. It's things like I went on a walk in this like really beautiful park and listened to an audiobook, or just like sat in a museum and was reading a book. Or occasionally it's like I went on a hike and this like serendipitous thing happened that I could not possibly have planned. Mm-hmm. Like one of my favorite memories, for instance, from the grad trip that I went on from Asia was hiking up Mount Bukhansan. I gathered together with a bunch of people from the hostel, and then like we went out on this long bus ride to go to the mountain. And I think that like the plan as stated was like not very interesting. The plan was take a bus, go hike the thing, come home. Mm-hmm. But there's a couple of like specific moments from the trip that I remember really clearly, even though this was like 9 years ago now. Like one thing was I remember getting off the bus, and then it was like kind of my crew, and there's a bunch of kind of middle-aged people. Middle-aged people were all like geared to the teeth. They were like had like really intense backpacks. They all had dual hiking poles. They had like their hats, had their sunglasses, like the really fat sunglasses. They had the visors. And I was just kind of giggling at them, being like, this is so funny. Because like I was just showing up in like my regular, like whatever, sneakers and like jeans. And I was like, this is going to be fine. And I was just kind of in my head, like kind of chuckling at them. And then for most of the walk up, I kind of felt the same. But then in the very last part, the hike up to the peak, there was this series of switchbacks that led to the top. So I was just like walking along those. And then as I was walking along the switchbacks, I looked over and I saw this group of middle-aged people just walking directly up. Like they were just like rock scrambling, like walking like 40-degree incline all the way up. And I was like, okay, I have misjudged this situation.
Darn.
And then at the very top, one of the groups of them just like saw me and like my fellow hostel mates and this like Korean dude who spoke zero English, or at least apparently spoke zero English.
Okay.
came over and just offered us food that he brought up.
Wow.
And like we just like sat and ate with them, and it was like this really simple interaction. We had no shared language. They didn't even really try to communicate. They just like wanted to share this experience with us.
Wow.
And they just shared the food, and then we all packed up, and then we just like said thank you.
And then went on away. Wow.
Yeah. And like I think that experience like was really meaningful to me, but it's like not a thing that I really could have like explicitly planned.
Right.
And I think that is also like the kind of failure mode of trying to do travel in the way where you have this like really tight itinerary.
Yes.
For everything, is it doesn't leave space for this kind of thing.
Yes.
But the other thing is that like sometimes if you do this kind of thing, the story at the end really is I got on a bus, I hiked up, it was pretty, I went down.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean listening to this story, totally like I almost forgot that like one of the big benefits of having unstructured time is you leave open the possibility for serendipity, which during travel, I agree. I think my most memorable moments were all very serendipitous and random and could not have been predicted. Yeah. And not scheduled in advance. I think, again, I mean, also a good corollary to life in general. I think like if you're always trying to optimize every minute, like you don't, like you're saying, like it's, it's a probabilistic thing. It's never guaranteed, but you kill out all chance. Yeah. If you try to maximize every intention and every minute.
Yeah. So like what moments of serendipity are coming to mind for you?
Like what's appropriate to
share?
Yeah. Okay, I'll go with the more wholesome one. Sure. I think an obvious one is just that I was able to meet and hang out with a lot of people. So I stayed in a hostel and I was solo traveling. That also helps optimize. And I had time. I think those are the three things that really increase your chances. And, I ended up meeting someone who's traveling from Hong Kong that was staying at the same hostel as me. And I knew that I was going to Hong Kong. Yeah. I also speak Cantonese. That helps a lot. Yep. And we ended up just like, I woke up, I went downstairs, and I bumped into this person that was moving in who needed help with, like, where do I put my suitcase? And then I was like, oh, it's here, because I'd been at the hostel for, like, 4 days at that point. And then it was just a very quick, like, so do you want to go grab some food? I'm going to go eat now. And then, you go eat, go talk a little bit. Yeah. And, again, language helps. And, it was just like, what are you doing tomorrow? Nothing. Do you want to... I was thinking about doing this, like, do you want to do that together? And then we spent basically the rest of the day hanging out together. And then we went on like a day trip out of the city the day after that. And then it ended with like, oh, I'm going to be in Hong Kong in like a month. Like, let's hang out then. And then we also hung out there. And like, I got to see a lot of like local life that I would not have otherwise seen, I think, because of that. And like, none of that could have been planned, like at all. It's literally because I woke up and was like, I've no idea what I'm doing. Yeah. So, serendipity is wild. I had another thought about something you were saying before, but I'm like forgetting it now. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, so there's this phrase I think about a lot, which is like surface area for luck. Yeah. And like it's interesting in that the way that it's usually applied is about giving yourself like maximum visibility, which is like a little bit more of like a productivity grind mindset where, you're writing things, putting it in public, you're like trying to build a personal brand for yourself.
Right. So people think about you.
Exactly. But there's like this other version of that, which is you can increase your surface area for luck by just going out and doing things without a specific goal in mind. It's like a surface area for a very different kind of luck. It's not like I need luck to progress my career. It's like, I need luck to have interesting experiences. Yeah. And one thing that really helps with that you just mentioned is like actually creating time and space for that. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you have a jam-packed schedule, like as these interesting opportunities arise, you're like, like that sounds so cool, but I have all these other plans already, so I can't do that.
Exactly.
And then you're just going down a checklist item for travel plan.
Yeah. As you're saying this, it also reminds me of like just also slowing down in combination with showing up. I think an example of this is one day I just told myself when I was in Japan again, I'm just going to walk around the city.
Yeah.
With no real, I had kind of an aim. If anyone's familiar with Tokyo, like I started off in Shinjuku, and then you can basically walk all the way down south to this area in between called Harajuku, which is, very fashion forward. It's like very trendy and cool that way. And then a little more south of that is Shibuya, which is kind of like downtown city core, like nightlife. And so it's like a 2-ish hours walk, I think, from top to bottom. I also took it slow. It might be shorter than that. But you can also take the train. The train would have taken like 20 minutes at most.
Yeah.
I decided to walk.
Yeah.
And that took, and I took my time with it. And I just, slowly meandered down. And that was also really nice. I think I did that on maybe like my third day. And yeah, it was just, there's a lot of stuff I wouldn't have been able to see. This is literally taking time to smell the roses. Right. And, you walk slowly, you just look and you take it all in. And you try to see all the like usual things that you don't normally pay attention to, like how the signs work, what the street lamps look like, what people are wearing, where they're going, And I think for me, that was a big part of it as well. At this point, I was still getting used to walking on the left side of the road, like all these things. I was just like soaking it in, and nothing crazy came out of that walk, I think. But it was just a nice moment for me, and like kind of like what you were saying before. My baseline is that it's a very normal walk, and I was cool with that. And in doing that and taking it slow, I also that was a chance that I could have taken. I don't know, could have bumped into somebody, could have like met a cool or like found a cool store or something like that. As I'm saying this, I did actually end up getting a few cool street photography shots while I was doing that walk. So that was cool too. This is reminding me of what I was saying before. I think the structure the way that you framed it, I don't think it would have been bad if like at the end of the day, you just took a bus with some strangers and went on a hike. I think like that is, for me, that was like maybe a good representation of my learnings from traveling is that sentiment exactly. Like you would think that, like it's so basic. I just like when I took a bus and did a hike and, like I can kind of hear that past Kevin would have been like, that's like, yeah, that seems a little lame, very so normal. Right. And I've kind of been learning that actually that's the bar. There's not much higher to go. Yeah. Like that actually, what you've described is the crux of most travel. Yeah. And I think once you learn to embrace that and like not, like for me, it was also like I guess judge myself for like, is this suboptimal basically? Is this too basic? That's the sweet spot. Because then like at a minimum, you're having a great time. And you also leave room for that serendipity for like, it could be an amazing time. But at a minimum, you're gonna have a great time. Yeah. I think that was the mindset that I got from travel that I'm like now trying to apply in life because I think it's basically the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The way that you're talking about like just making space for these slower moments in life, it just is reminding me of a lot of the details that I've loved about travel. Like a lot of things that I've really enjoyed have not been like I went to whatever, the Louvre, or like I like went to go hang out in Tokyo Sky Tower. Like those things are like kind of interesting. But the things that I think really get me are the really small details, the things that are subtly different about everyone's day-to-day mundane lives. Yeah. So like things like the fact that in Tokyo there's like so many spaces that are like super purpose made for that one thing. Like there's like tiny cafes where they only do like 3 drinks. And then it's just like exactly curated for that. Right. Or like in Hong Kong, just like the tone of like banter between restaurant staff, or like the way that people will beckon people over with like the specific like kind of hand gesture that I only see in Asia, or like the like weird practices like remembering that in Hong Kong it's pretty common at night to see people dousing down like giant stacks of cardboard boxes. And it's the kind of thing that like if I was not actively paying attention to it, I'd be like, whatever, it's boxes. But when I have that time and space, I'd be like, what is going on? And like, what is like the subtle cultural thing that's happening here? And a friend explained to me that like, oh, it's because people get money for turning in cardboard boxes, so they wet them to make them heavier because it's by weight.
By weight.
I know. It's just like, it's just like all these subtle little details like that I really love in a way that's not about like some big theatrical thing. It's not about like, oh man, like I went in this crazy like bravado adventure. Right. It's just these like subtle details about things that really enriches the experience of it. And really like whenever I watch anything from those areas, like it's those details that really pull me into the nostalgia.
The cultural learnings.
Yeah, exactly. The cultural like subtleties that I learned to love. And I really think that the only way I'm able to get that is from slowing down and like not trying to like quote unquote like get the most out of the experience. And instead just like try to experience the actual place.
Yeah, I think this general conclusion that we're coming to of maybe we don't need to min-max everything is pretty good. In fact, maybe it's the other way around, where it's actually only a small subset of things that you can min-max,
right,
and therefore are you worth even attempting. It turns out just lifing is a pretty good strategy.
Yeah,
and kind of like it's also like humility in a way, where you have to kind of accept that the bar is not so high.
Yeah,
which from the perspective of having potentially like crushing expectations, I think it's liberating.
Yeah.
And as you were saying that, I also remember that like on my travels, I met a lot of other travelers who were also traveling for a myriad of different reasons. And that was kind of cool too. Like when I was in Korea, I met this one guy actually from the Bay, and he is just like a huge fan of this one K-pop star.
Oh yeah.
And he literally flew like to Korea for like 2 days to catch this concert, which I thought was wild. And, I had met him through like a friend of a friend who I had met in like Kyoto, who was also like a traveler. It's like more serendipity, like it's all coming together. And then like just learning that, other people just have different like, there's many ways and like to think about traveling and the reasons for traveling. And I think they're all very like valid in the sense of I met all these people who travel for different reasons, and they all seem to be having a really good time. He was really thrilled. He was like, like still working and stuff. So it's just a weekend trip for him.
Yeah.
And the flight's like 14 hours one way. He spent more time on the plane, I'm pretty sure, than he did in Korea. But he had the time of his life, like at this concert. He ended up he ended up sitting like very close to, so it was like this person that was formerly part of a larger group, but had gone solo, and this was her solo show. And her like group mates came to the show, and they were just sitting like 3 rows away from him. He was freaking out. So yeah, it was great. We went to karaoke the night before, and then like he sang some of their songs. It was great. Dance and all, of course. So,
whoa.
Yeah, super fan. So that was cool. I thought that was a moment for me too. I was like, wow, like, a little part of me, the pragmatic part, is like, wow, this makes no sense whatsoever. Like in terms of time, energy, resources expended, you had to shift time zones, like. Yeah. But then like also like it's just cool that it was just so meaningful to him. And that, he was just clearly so thrilled and overjoyed with his experience. And I was like, you know what? Maybe then like, maybe the judgment is bad then, like to each their own in a way.
Yeah.
And also like find your own happiness in a way, and
what a concept.
I know, it's wild. It's like he made a determination about what he wanted to do, and then he did it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of great. That's kind of the soul, I think, of the whole endeavor.
So like with these observations about how slowing down really has its benefits, and also like this recognition that there's many ways to travel, or I might say many ways to live a life.
Yes.
How is that like informing your life now?
I think it goes back to this. I mean, I say it like I've solved the puzzle. I think I still a balance beam thing, like the tightrope thing. I still get pulled back into the old way of thinking, but the new thing that I'm trying to center on is just this idea of like no pressure.
Yeah.
Which for me has always been predicated on trust. Like I was saying really like earlier on in the episode, this idea of it. One of the fundamental pillars that makes this framework work in my mind is that I have to trust myself. That I'm going to make sure I'm okay. That like, things will work out in the end. And I have pragmatic ways of, paying for the roof over my head and feeding myself and finding meaning in work and stuff. But that otherwise, you don't need to pressure yourself so much. Like left to my own devices, I will be okay, and I can naturally navigate myself to like things that bring me meaning, joy, and generally steer me in the direction of thriving without a lot of external pressure. Because that's how I grew up, honestly. Like this is probably the topic for another podcast, but my parents didn't really, like, left to my own devices as a kid. I basically wanted to have fun all the time. Shocking. What kind of kid wants to have fun?
Yeah.
But my parents were like really dead set on just productivity, right? And so they would essentially they snuffed all of that kind of out of me. They wouldn't let me like do a lot of things like sleepovers, go out to parties, have fun with my friends. I like didn't really get, I had to like beg for years before I could get like a single gaming console, which, part of it also is money, but also they didn't want me to like become so obsessed with video games, which ironically, like the more they pushed me away, the more I wanted it. And so when they got me the video game, I went hard into it, so it's the classic situation. But I basically grew up with this idea that like, fun is like vilified. Like it's not something you have to work to deserve it. Yeah. I lost my train of thought. I forgot why. Where would I start? Yeah. Where did I start?
You're talking about like how you think that you've just kind of learned to trust yourself a little bit more. That like,
oh yeah, pressures. Yeah, right. So because my natural tendency was I want to play, and and that's bad. And the good thing is you need to work. Yeah. They kind of put all this pressure on me. Like, oh, you have to like. They would tell me you have to work or do X hours of homework before you can play. And it's like these structures that were kind of like shackles in a way. They served their purpose in a way that like, I did end up doing well in school and all this stuff. But at some point the shackles, they never came off. And so like the way that I navigated through life is that I need to like these tools of like having a schedule and having goals and like a timeline for yourself. Like these are like, they're like almost like torture devices that like force me to be productive. Yeah. And I think one of the learnings has been like, they don't have to be. Right. Like you can make a schedule that like you actually enjoy, that you're friends with, as opposed to this, I don't know, overbearing overlord that like forces you to work like 99% of the day. Yeah. I mean,
there's like a kind of a framing of a sense of who you are as like, I am fundamentally lazy, and the only thing that will allow me to survive is the constraints of this schedule that like people have taught me how to do. And there's a different framing of, you know what? I trust myself to like do what I need to be comfortable and survive, and I should leave myself space and trust that in that space I will do things that I'm proud of.
Exactly. Like I had to learn to trust, because I've been grown up with this default that like, oh, left to my own devices, I'm like a degenerate, basically, like a hedonistic degenerate that like only seeks like pleasure for the sake of pleasure, and will become like the world's biggest potato, like that was kind of the mindset growing up. But then it turns out in order to discover this, I had to trust that it would not be the case. But left to my own devices, which I've been leaning into for the past few months, it turns out that's not the case. Like I naturally, almost like freakishly, I naturally gravitate towards like doing productive things. Yeah. Even when I take the pressure off, it's like I get bored and then I'm like, oh, I want to build something. I want to do something meaningful with my time. And that has naturally manifested as like, like this podcast takes a lot of work, and like, that's still a thing. And like, I've taken up reading more, like all these things that like past Kevin would have had to like, reading an hour a day, like, you gotta, at 9 o'clock, you're like gonna do podcast work for 3 hours, like this very regimented, very forceful way of doing it. Yeah. Turns out, left to my own devices, I will naturally do that, which is wild. So that's relieving in a way to know that like I didn't really have to change my own, like, the set of values that I have. It's cool that I embody my own values, which I don't know.
I think like part of the trickiness here that I think I've run into, and lots of people have as well, is if you're like really used to having that really rigid structure, that forces you to like be productive, then some part along the way you might have the thought, okay, maybe actually I'm okay without this. But if you have been in that really intense constraining structure for a long time and you let it all go for a while, you will probably like be a degenerate for a while.
Yes.
And sometimes in that process, people will learn like, okay, without structure, I become a degenerate.
Yeah.
But I think the reality is like, yeah, that's because you need a release valve. But once you've actually released, then you can actually start to notice your actual natural tugs and then follow them. But like, if you like, yeah, I mean, if you like are starved for a while, you're probably gonna like binge eat right afterwards.
Yeah.
But then after that, you'll probably come to like a more natural rhythm.
Yeah.
So you have to like trust that you'll be a degenerate, but that it will end without needing to impose like aggressive structure on your life.
Yes, that's also a very fair point. I also had that degeneracy.
Yeah.
But hilariously, my degeneracy was like getting very intense into competitive sports.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like of all the things that I could have done to be a degenerate, like that's a pretty good.
Yeah.
Like it's very healthy, like it's sports, it's like a good outlet, you know, like
yeah.
Yeah. So even I also had that, and I say it's degeneracy because I only pursued it for like type 1 fun. Like I wanted to play a lot of badminton and I wanted to get better at it. And I did just that. I'd spend a lot of time and money and just playing it, watching myself getting better at it and reveling in watching my own progress. Like there's no goal. There's no like, I want to go to the Olympics. That's not happening. I want to go full time. That's also not happening. Like the money's just not there in North America, you know, like, so there's no goal. It doesn't make sense. But, yeah, that's why I think it was technically degeneracy. But ironically, it's still, even then, it's kind of like productive degeneracy.
So like when you've had this like mindset for so long of like, I must be productive.
Yeah.
Then I'm assuming, some of it might not be true, but I'm assuming that like when you have these periods of just trying to trust yourself, occasionally you do have that voice come up being like, what are you doing?
Oh,
like
100%.
Go do stuff. So when the voice comes up, like how are you interacting with it in a way that allows you to?
It's freaky, like to give you a sense, like I was in my deep degeneracy, badminton degeneracy. Yeah. I'm still kind of in it, but it's like I'm much more chilled out about it now. Yeah. Like I play maybe half as much as I used to, which was like 6-7 times a week. Yeah. When I was deep in it, it was maybe about 3 months, and about 6 weeks, like halfway through that process. Not that I at that point knew it would end in 3 months. That's why it's scary. You're like, where is this going? Am I just gonna keep? Like I'm doing this because there's a voice in part of me. There's a part of me that says I want to do this. Yep. And I'm just listening to it. Yep. And I'm like, all right, go have some fun, kid. Yeah. And the fear is kind of like, when does it end? It's almost like parental. It's like, okay, I'm like paying so much for this. What is it? Where does it go? Yeah. And I kind of just had to, again, trust myself that like if like base case, it turns out I find a lot of meaning and a lot of joy in this. And if that's just true, I guess it's not bad then if I just keep doing that. And so that was kind of the baseline I had to have in my mind in order to proceed. That like, which is kind of huge if you think about it, because I had to accept that like, basically if I spent, you know, maybe not the rest of my life, but like, you know, like a year, like strictly just pursuing joy for joy's sake, it's selfish in a way where it's like it's entirely for me and there's no other purpose other than I'm gonna have fun and being okay with that. Yeah, you know, like as like a 30-year-old who like lives back at home, had, you know, on paper doesn't really have much going on, like, you know, I had to kind of swallow that. Yeah. And like I mean, I make it sound like a bad thing, but it's actually kind of a beautiful thing where it's like, yeah, I am worth that. Screw all of these like expectations that you might have, or like any like external societal expectations. Just like I'm okay with pursuing my own happiness, and that's what I needed to get back to being level. Yeah. And then a magical thing happened that like around month 3, I was like, you know what, this is a lot of fun, but I think I'm ready for other things. Yeah. It turns out I want to build bigger and better things for, you know, the society that I live in. Yeah. And yeah, so I still do it, but it's chilled out, and I've been transitioning towards, I guess, more conventionally productive uses of my time. Mm-hmm. But I don't really think about it like that. It's just like part of me got a little bored, honestly. Like, okay, like I can see where this is going. Like I can track my own progression curve now, and that's cool. But I think there's cooler things, and so I'm gonna do those cooler things.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing maybe I'll talk about in a future episode is like one way that I view the world is just like, or more specifically, one way I think about how to spend my time is just how can I explore different types of fun.
Right.
Which is like so dramatically different, right? Yeah. Like, and it's only made possible due to like all the clicks before, and then on top of those clicks, all those learnings from travel of taking it slow, like just going with what you're interested in, letting the serendipity happen, listening to yourself, trusting your own compass. So, yeah, it's all coming to. It's to one of your earlier points about transitions. It feels like this is another transition now.
Yeah.
Into a more, I don't know, conventionally defined work-centric phase. But yeah.
All right. I mean, that sounds like it'll be fodder for future discussion.
I agree. Yeah. But yeah.
All right. Well, like to cap us off, how are you feeling, and what part of this conversation do you think is going to stay with you?
Yeah, I think. Is it weird that I'm inspired by my own thoughts? That's a little self-aggrandizing, but I do feel like pretty hyped because I think all these thoughts exist in my mind, but it's rare that they're all at the forefront at the same time.
Yeah,
both tracking my arc and then also like these are the new tenets that I'm trying to live by. So yeah, I do believe in them. So like articulating them now, it's like, oh yeah, like wow. I'm pretty cool. and I do think that this is just a way better way of orienting in my life now. I'm really happy that like I got to this orientation. And if I think back to like Kevin like 2 years ago, it's night and day.
Yeah.
We're like very like on the surface level, maybe very, functionally the same.
Yeah.
But dude, in inner world, whew, night and day. It's like I went from the torture chamber into like a sunny, like beautiful park with lush greenery, and fresh air. Like that's how it feels. So yeah, I think feeling pretty elated. I think like energetically, like at least an 8, 9 out of 10.
Nice.
It's I honestly am thinking that I really want to hold on to that because it's rare that I'm fully looking at it.
Yeah.
A lot of the times it's in the back of my head. And right now I'm like so energized. I'm like, man, I should feel this vigor all the time. It's definitely not the case, always ups and downs. But yeah, that's what I'm holding on to. That I should really remember all these things that I just said. Because I think they will serve me well.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I think I'm feeling like I am feeling inspired. It's not like an intense like holy shit I'm gonna go do these things kind of inspired. It's more like I feel like more affirmed in my kind of intention to live a little bit more slowly and to not try to like find answers quickly and just allow life to unfold a little bit more. I realize that like a lot of the joy and satisfaction I get in life does come from noticing these subtleties. And whenever I try to strap like really intense goal-oriented stuff around it, it kind of like works in that the goal gets accomplished, but I end up in a similar place of like, okay, but why am I doing this? Whereas if you just let life kind of unfold, then I think that I similarly will trust myself to like get back to a place where I'm, like where I'm proud of the effect that I have on the world without it being as aggressively top-down control. I think like the inspiration thing I think really comes from seeing that you have like earnestly changed your perception over time. Like I think it's not a thing that you would really notice if you just kind of interact with you on a surface level, but because we talked about this at such length, I really know that before your internal dialogue was so aggressively like, go do the work, go like grind, it's like time to work, like only fun allowed in the specific time window, and that gets overridden if the work doesn't get done. Whereas seeing you be able to earnestly sit in this long period of uncertainty, not knowing exactly where you're going, and seem earnestly content with where you are in life, I think that is inspiring in like a more subtle way that I really appreciate. Yeah.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having you on the journey.
Yeah. I think emotionally I'm at like an 8. Physically I'm at like a 6. Need to eat some food for sure.
It's lunchtime.
But yeah, feeling really at peace. Yeah.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
And I so appreciate you back at home or on the road or wherever you are. Thanks for tuning in yet again to this episode of Vulnerability Junkies. Yeah. Now available on YouTube if you didn't already know that. Thanks for hanging out. And we'll see you in the next one.
See you next time.